the many deaths of Toa Tuyet. Lekon, Toa of Fire, stood silent in the gathering darkness around him. A small crowd of Matoran had formed, murmuring to each other in shocked tones. He could imagine the shock and horror they were feeling. After all, he was feeling it too. How could this have happened? Tom Metro has so many safeguards, he muttered. Sometimes the way of modern Nui is a mystery indeed, said Taragaduma. I have already asked Jowler to investigate the accident. Lekon knelt beside the still ruined body of the Tomatorn. He lay where he had fallen after a vat of molten protodermis had inexplicably tipped and spilled its searing contents on him. It was an awful way to die. Clear the villagers out of here, Lekon said to Duma. The area is not safe as soon as Nadiki gets back. I'm back, the Toa of Air landed lightly next to his comrade. I examined that bat, the cable, and the connectors, like you asked. It's amazing how small everyone looks from up there. What did you find? Lekon snapped impatiently. The connectors were tampered with, Nadiki answered. Whoever did it didn't even try to make it look like an accident. This was a murder, Lekon. At the sound of the word, Baki Narak moved in close. It was the job of these mechanoids to enforce the order of the city. A task was performed coldly and efficiently. Diki glanced at them with undisguised contempt and gave one a shove. Back off, he snarled. Now, if this was a living being once, you wouldn't understand that. Lekon reached out and gingerly rolled the body over. His eye was immediately drawn to a small stone tablet under the corpse. The two words were written on it in the language of the Matoran. Toa Tuyet. I don't have any idea, said Tuyet, Toa of Water. I barely even know any Tomatoran. Well, that's understandable, said Nadiki. They're not the most interesting bunch. Think, said Lekon. Are you sure you never met him? Could he be carrying a message to you? Tuyet shook her head. I'm sorry, I don't know. I haven't even left Metru in days, let alone gone to the other side of the city. I've been helping Okama and some improvements to the labs. All right, said Lekon. And with the other Toa away on missions, there's just the three of us to protect the city. So care and keep a careful eye out. Someone killed that Matoran, and we can't let it happen again. Later, Nadiki and Lekon walked towards the shoot station, and the Toa of Fire obviously didn't want to talk, but that never stopped Nadiki before. So murderous, Matoran, said the Toa of Air. That should liven things up. There's nothing amusing about this. Sure, there is fearless leader, Nadiki said. For example, a brilliant Toa of Fire overlooking the obvious. That's pretty funny. What are you talking about? Okay, let's just say some message meant for Tuyet. Well, what if the tablet was only part of the message? Part of it, then where's the other part? Nadiki smiled a bitter smile. He's lying on a slab in Tom Metru, Lekon. And he's very, very dead. Kongu was late for work. He should have been at his station a half hour ago to retrieve the night shoot controller. As a result, he was in such a hurry that he never even noticed there was something on the road until he stumbled over it. He got to his feet, grumbling and brushing himself off. Who would let something just lie here in the street like that? Where could it have been a hazard? He and the half-mind complained to the Vaki. He then stopped. Behind his mask, his eyes widened. The first rays of dawn had illuminated the object in the road now, and Kongu could see for what it was, a dead Matoran, mask shattered from fall. In his hand, he clutched a stone tablet that read, Toa Tuyet. The curious investigation by Lekon and Nadiki revealed that the cables in which the Matoran had been working on had been slashed. The news of one murder disturbed the population of Metro Nui. A word of a second sent Matoran into panic. Baki were working non-stop to keep residents working rather than staying hidden in their homes, leaving the Diki in search of remaining clues. Likon traveled to Ga-Metru. Tuyet wasn't at the Great Temple or Nokama's school, and had been seen all day. The light stones in their living quarters had been doused, but a little darkness had never stopped Likon. Pushing the door open, he conjured a flame to illuminate the dwelling. The sudden light startled Tuyet. She had been standing against the back of the wall, gazing out of the window, lost in thought. When she saw Likon, she relaxed, though not very much. "I should have expected you," she said. Likon nodded. "There's been another death, Tuyet. I know you don't like Nadiki, so I left him behind. You know, you and I have been friends for thousands of years. We traveled together, fought together, and once almost died together. If you know something about what's going on, you have to tell me." Tuyet looked down at the ground. A long moment passed before she spoke. "If I do, I'll put you in danger. The best thing might be for me just to leave Metro Nui. Once I go, this'll stop." Likon reached out to her hand. "A long time ago, I was stationed in a Toa tower under attack by fraudsters. Our team ordered me to abandon my post so there I would be a survivor to warn others what had happened. I was young, new to being a Toa, so I agreed. I lived. They died, and I swore that I would never run from anything ever again. We're Toa, Tuyet, and Toa don't run." Tuyet looked into the depths of Likon's eyes. Her expression behind her mask of intangibility was unreadable. But when she spoke, it was slow and measured, a pace from steaming, running towards the sea. "Have you ever heard of the Nui Stone?" "No." "Well, I would like to have imagined that you heard of a legend, at least," she said. "If only it were just a legend." "What is it?" "We all know of Toa stones. Almost any rock can serve as one. A Toa takes it in hand and places it in a minute portion of his energy inside it. Later it can be used to trigger a transformation of a Matoran into a Toa, but a Toa stone is passive, just receptacle for energy. The Nui stone is something else again." Tuyet summoned the fog to shroud her home so that prying eyes could not see through the windows before she continued. "The Nui stone is active, where a Toa stone is passive. It doesn't wait for you to give it your energy. It takes it. Once activated, it'll absorb minute amounts of energy from any Toa within 3,000 Kyo radius. So slowly and surely, that it won't be noticed until it's too late. Then, that energy can be absorbed into a living being. Can you imagine one being with the power of dozens, maybe hundreds of Toa or more? And such a thing exists?" asking Likon, already seeing a potential danger in such an object. Tuyet nodded. "Yes, but its makers realized the risk. They made only one and vowed to destroy that one, but before they could do it, it was stolen. No one knows by whom, but it was passed from hand to hand for millennia. No one ever realizing it was or could do. Just that powerful, and it's so valuable. Finally, at some point in the recent past, it ended up on my home island, or so they say." "What does this have to do with two Matoran dead and tablets bearing your name?" asked Likon. "Shortly after I left home to help you and the others fight the Kanohi dragon here, a team of Dark Hunters invaded the homeland. They were looking for the Nui Stone. When they couldn't find it, they assumed I had taken it for safekeeping." "And did you?" "No," Tuyet answered. If I ever had the cursing thing in my hand, I would have crushed it to powder." "But the Dark Hunters think you have it." They sent me a message, said Tuyet. They threatened the Turaga and the Matorn of my whole island. They have given me several days to turn the stone over to their agents, and promised to help me keep account of the days. These deaths, those sick, evil, this is their countdown, Lee Khan. Toa Nadiki dodged the rock, a hard blow from the Dark Hunter called Devastator. He wasn't fast enough to dodge the follow-up, which sent him flying 20 feet through the air to crash into a pile of equipment. Nadiki had been happy to hear the news that the Dark Hunters had infiltrated Metro Nui. It was comforting in some way to know that the Matorn had not gone mad and started offering his fellows even the actual explanation was a little dull. Still, it gave him something to hit. Devastator was a big boy, probably close to a ton of mechanical muscle. Worse, he had the habit of turning to sand and disappearing into rocks in the floor, or telekinetically hurling mechanization. It was getting annoying. Recon had offered to take over the other two Dark Hunters, and now it was looking like the Toa Fire had the easy job. What else new? Thought Nadiki, dragging himself back to his feet. I like you, said the Toa, hurling a mini-cyclone at his foe. You don't talk. So many of you Dark Hunter types talk ear off when you are in the fight. Must be because you are the rest at the time. You get to speak when you are spoken to, right? Devastator grunted and used his mental powers to bring a wall down over Nadiki. The Toa of Air dodged nimbly and grabbed the beam and hurled it at his opponent. Devastator caught it in midair and bent it in two. Whatever they're feeding you, I'll take a case, Nadiki muttered. The Dark Hunter pressed his attack, and Nadiki dodged it and struck it where he could, all while keeping the Dark Hunter patterned. That was a cute idea you had. That countdown of dead Matorn, or did someone else come up with that? Heavy thinking. Really, it isn't your line. Nadiki expected to see anger on the Devastator's features, or maybe even what had passed for a smile on a Dark Hunter. He did not expect what he got, an expression of sheer confusion that lasted at least 2 seconds before giving way to rage. Now what's that about? Thought the Toa. Devastator hurled a few more pieces of scrap metal, nothing Nadiki couldn't dodge easily, but he pretended to get clipped. When Devastator moved to finish him off, Nadiki tossed a cyclone at him. The Dark Hunter evaded by turning to stand and dropping toward a crack in the pavement, but Nadiki had anticipated him. He sent a second cyclone into a near Protodermis pool, which created a water spout, which he used to douse the Devastator and turn his sand to mud. The Dark Hunter made a game effort to stay in the fight, but Nadiki had the advantage and wasn't going to let it go. Oh, a few well-placed blows and it was over. Econ showed up then and tackled the Dark Hunter named Gladiator and another who was some sort of chameleon power. The Toa said to his opponent had appeared in a one-eyed yellow Rahi, but Econ had no idea what he was trying to resemble. That's all of them, said the Toa of Fire. It's over. Are you sure? Gladiator and I talk, Econ replied. I'm sure. Heading to tell Tuyet that she can come out now. Econ glanced at Nadiki. There was something off in Nadiki's tone of voice, as the Toa of Air was preoccupied. Yes, said Econ. I need to stick with these Dark Hunters someplace while we decide what to do with them and take care of the priority jobs for Duma. Then I will head over to Gametru. Then maybe I'll see you there, Nadiki said, departing. Yes, maybe. It took longer than Legon expected to get his task done. Night had already fallen, and by the time he made it to Gametru, Nadigi was there ahead of him, standing with Tuyet, amused in a crowd of Matoran. A Gamatoran was lying on the ground, unmoving, from a puddle around the body. Legon, guessing she had already finished out a canal. In her hands was a now familiar stone tablet bearing Tuyet's name. "What happened?" he asked, already guessing he knew the answer. "It was awful," said Tuyet. "I heard a scream and a splash. I ran out, but she was already dead. Drowned with that, a terrible reminder in her hand. Just like the others," Nadigi said, his eyes meeting Lekon's for a long moment. "Tell him what happened, Tuyet." "Only a few moments ago," said the Toa water. "But that's," Lekon began. Nadigi cut him off. "Horrible. That's what it is. But don't worry, Tuyet. Lekon and I will catch the ones who did this. You can count on that." It was an hour later. Full darkness was descending on Metru Nui, as well as on the spirits of its residents, and none walked deeper in the shadow than Lekon at this night. He found Tuyet's dwelling. She looked at him hopefully. "Did you find them? Did you stop them?" Lekon nodded. "Yes, you have. Nothing more to worry about. Nadigi and I captured 3 Dark Hunters." Tuyet smiled. "That's wonderful. Then the countdown is over. I can live again. And I don't have to sit on this darkened chamber anymore. We can share our adventures again, just like before." Lekon walked past her. Before she could react, he smashed the hole in the back and reached in his hand, emerging with a glowing red stone. "We will share this, too. This is the Nui stone, isn't it? The one you said you didn't have. How did you? The stone is full of energy. Energy gives off heat," said Lekon. Once I know to look for it, it was easy. Heat is my business." Tuyet rose. To her credit, she didn't seem nervous or taken back. She was colder than most ice Toa. Lekon had known. He had given her that. "What do you mean, knew to look for it? I don't even know how it got there." You didn't know a lot of things, it turned out," said Lekon. "For example, Nadigi and I caught those 3 Dark Hunters that were after you. But we caught them this morning. So they couldn't have killed the Gamatoran tonight and left the tablet on her." Nadigi told me Devastator looked confused when he brought that countdown. So we started wondering if that was because we really had no idea what was going on. He and the others were after you, it's true, but they weren't the ones killing the Torin. Lekon summoned a ring of fire to surround the Toa of water. "You were Tuyet." "That's ridiculous," Tuyet snapped, calling down a thunderstorm to douse the flames. "Have you ever gone mad accusing me of something like that?" "The Dark Hunters were right. The Nui Stone did end up on your home planet, and you did take it with you when you came here. They wanted it, and you knew that they wouldn't stop until someone stopped them. So you started this countdown, and then set Nadigi and I on their trail. When you heard of nothing from us, you assumed that they were still free, so you had to keep the countdown going." The water blast struck Lekon. It came from nowhere, sending him hurtling across the room. The impact made him drop the stone, but it landed in a water bubble and floated gently back to Tuyet. "I thought Nadigi would be a problem, but not you," she said harshly. "You are so trusting, so convinced of purity of Toa. I don't think Nadigi even trusts himself. Better keep an eye on him, Lekon. He'll come to no good." You mean like you," said the Toa of fire. Tuyet laughed. "Me? With energies in the stone? I'm going to be the most powerful Toa that ever lived. Think of it. No more Rahi monsters attacking. No more Dark Hunters. And maybe I'll even take the Brotherhood of Makuta just for fun. What the League of Six Kingdoms tried to do while they were active, I will do. Impose the law and order on everything that lives. Your law, your order, said Nikon. Law built on the corpses of dead Matoran, others built on knives. No good can come from that. That's your problem, Likon, Tuyet sneered. Always following the rules. Always worrying about others. Did you ever think that we could do more good if we stopped worrying so much about who might get hurt in the process? The day we stop worrying about that, we'll be part of the problem, said Nikon. No more problems, Tuyet answered. Her gaze was shifting like the stone in her hand. I'm about to become the ultimate solution. Her hand closed on the stone. It began to crackle, and a nimbus crimson energy surrounded her. Recon hurled a firebolt, but she deflected it without even looking at him. Her power was already growing exponentially. With each passing moment, in a matter of seconds, she would be able to snuff him out like a tiny flame in a windstorm. Don't do this, he shouted. Remember what it is we stand for. Remember who you are. I don't care who I am, Tuyet yelled. I care about who I will become. In the next split second was a blur. There was a sound like a mountain splitting the two, and then the door was flying across the room, slamming into Tuyet. The Tiki stood in the room in an open doorway, a tornado whirling around him. Hi, dear. I am home, said the Toa of Air. Likon sprang from the door, closed on Tuyet, and tried to pry the stone loose from her grasp. She hurled him aside, and then hit the Tiki with a flood tide that forced him out of the chamber. In the next instant, her power exploded, bringing down the entire dwelling. Before the startled eyes, the Toa of Fire, Tuyet began to rise in a column of water. Higher and higher she climbed, until it seemed like she would be able to torch the stars themselves. And she was laughing. A thunderous, horrible sound that shattered Nikon's hopes and beliefs. It's like there are some fragile things of crystal. I always knew she looked down at us, but this is ridiculous, said Natiki. Are you up to put a chill on her plans? Likon didn't answer. Instead, he focused his energy on the drawing of all the heat from the column of water on which Tuyet stood. The effects were immediate. Water became ice. Before the Toa water could respond, the Tiki had picked up a pole made of some metallic protodermis and swung it, smashing the pillar of ice into pieces. Stunned and thrown off balance, Tuyet dropped the stone out of contact with her new powers. Abruptly vanished, she suddenly shocked of a loss that stunned her. She fell. The stone fell. Likon watched them both, wondering which, if either, she could catch. She chose the Toa. The Tiki was fine with that choice. He positioned himself under the Nui stone, ready to snatch it out of the air. Out of the corner of his eyes, he saw Nikon catch Tuyet. The Nui stone came closer and closer. Then, a blast of fire knocked her out of the air. No! Yelled the Tiki, trying to grab it, but its surface was molten hot, and he couldn't touch it for more than a second. The stone hit the ground and splintered into a billion pieces, whose red glow flared and faded for good. You! Raged the Tiki. You stupid Mornak! What's the matter with you? Likon encircled Tuyet with fiery chains, although they did not touch her. She could not move without being burned, and they burned so white hot that even any moisture was instantly evaporated on contact. With the destruction of the stone, the red glow faded around her as well. Sorry, Nadiki. My mistake, said Nikon. I've seen to have made a lot of them lately. Tuyet would be confined in the Colosseum while Duma and Lycon take decide on fitting a punishment. Despite under guard, she disappeared into the night and was never seen again. Reports that a large creature had suddenly appeared in the cell and teleported out with her dismissed. At the best, a delusion. Lycon would never find out what happened to Tuyet, although the mystery haunted him for all his life. But the prisoners of the pit welcomed a new companion that night, a Toa who had committed the unpardonable crime of slaying those who were intended to protect. Tuyet was among the prisoners who perished when the great cataclysm shattered the pit. There are some escapees who claim she fought beside Hydraxin, trying to stop the inmates from fleeing, while others insist she was looking to break herself out just as she got unlucky. As so many things in life, the full truth would never be known, and those who still remember are invited to believe whatever or lets them sleep more peacefully at night. The end.